All right, dude, we're rolling here. All right, guys, I got Tommy back again today. I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff. So Tommy hit me up recently. It was like, dude, we need to record a video talking about a bunch of different stuff about operations in the business, sales, back-end offers, all this really exciting stuff. So, dude, I would love to have you kind of kick it off here. Tell everyone a little bit about where you're at in your business right now.
So today, currently, we have 7 trainers, 3 kennel techs, a training manager, myself, my fiance. I got 17 dogs in the kennel right now with, I think, 5 more coming this week, and a bunch scheduled out. So today versus, let's see, last April, we moved back here to Missouri. We were literally leasing for free, not really leasing, but there was an agreement between the rescue that we were living at because we had moved back from Virginia with no plan. And we lived in the basement of the rescue in a 1-bedroom, little built out spot. Myself, my fiance, and our 1-year-old at the time, 1.5-year-old. And they were giving us 6 5x5 runs to start our business over again here in Missouri. So literally having 0 money, no plan, living on borrowed time in a friend's basement. Yeah. We went from that last April to a 12,000 square foot, fully staffed training facility. We actually just brought on a groomer yesterday or last week. She started officially yesterday. And we're rolling. So
yeah, man. And guys, Tommy was just showing me around this place. It's an unbelievable facility. Like, I don't even feel like I can put into words exactly what he's got going on here, but pretty impressive stuff. So all of this happened in the course of a year. So why don't you just kind of talk a little bit about, like, what was this a goal that you had? Like, did you know for yourself that, like, you wanted to get into a facility like this when you moved back to Missouri? Or like, did you just kind of like want to get back up on your feet, start making some money? Like, what were you thinking?
I wasn't. I've been doing this professionally since 2016. And before that, I owned a firearms training consulting business, was doing really well with that.
Yeah.
This was a passion, still is a passion. It has to be a passion for you to go to the extremes that I've gone over the last few years and what I've done, to create things, what I've done, my name, all that kind of stuff. But no, like when we moved back here to Missouri, like we were literally looking for a place to live, maybe a couple acres with an outbuilding. And we were just going to do what we've always done and, run 10 to 15, maybe 20 dogs a month, bringing in anywhere between 20 to 50 grand a month and just have it be me, myself, my fiance, because that's all I've known. I've always been a 1099 contractor for whatever company, XYZ company, working on the side. And that's just all I've known. I've only worked for one kennel and it was a shit show and I never wanted to do anything with it. So, but my name here in Missouri and St. Louis area just grew so exponentially that I couldn't keep up with the demand. We were booking dogs out 6 months, 7, 8 months. And I was losing a ton of clients because I couldn't keep up with the demand for my training, which isn't a bad thing, but it is also a bad thing at the same time.
Yeah, because, absolutely.
A lot of those clients, they would go, okay, well, I need you now. I'm going to go find someone else. And then anyway, they'd come back in 6 months anyway, just to spend more money with us because they had already tried it with someone else. And then they were right back at our doorstep.
Yeah.
So now with what we have now, which it's much bigger than what we need, but it's also, there's nothing like this in the Midwest. Like we have a 5,000 square foot training floor that we can literally do anything on. Yeah. It's the biggest public space for dog training in Missouri that I know of, at least, besides like Purina Farms, which again, you have to lease all that kind of stuff. You have to, either go out there to compete or whatever. They don't do just open training there.
Yeah.
So no one has what we have, and it's fantastic because we get a lot of people coming in, and we get a lot of trainers now that I wasn't even thinking of that want to lease space now that it's getting cold, and come in and run their personal dogs in here for frisbee and disc and protection and things like that. that they don't have the space in their own places.
Mhm.
So that was a whole nother thing that I never even considered, was having a space for, other trainers to come and lease a space and stay cold, or, stay warm during the winter.
Yeah.
So
And I got so many questions that are running through my mind, and like, I like, cause the reason I asked before is this something that you always wanted, because sometimes I feel like people have this like vision from the beginning and they're like, I'm going to build this from the ground up. But for you, like, it sounds like to me that you just kind of, you're like, knowing you kind of just feel like, seems to me like you just didn't really have a say in the matter. Like, this opportunities kept presenting themselves and you were like, why not? Let's just do it. Right. So something like this came along. You didn't need a space this big to kind of do what you were doing at the time, but you were like, we'll grow into it.
100%. Yeah. When we got the opportunity to come in here, so we've only been here 4 months.
Yeah.
And like, I negotiated a hell of a deal to get in here.
Mm-hmm.
Something that because you asked me when we first got on the phone, like, how much I put in this building. And I think we're somewhere around between like 80,000 and 100,000,
Mm-hmm.
as far as flooring, paint, build out, kennels,
Mm-hmm.
equipment, just everything. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we weren't really ready for that. So we've literally been training to pay for the build out, and not being able to put money in our pocket. So we haven't taken a paycheck pretty much this entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that pays dividends next year, now that everything's in place, and we're going to start getting things rolling and all that kind of stuff. Plus,
Yeah.
having to pay payroll now is a huge thing. I mean, we're paying probably upwards of $16,000 to $20,000 a month in payroll,
Mm-hmm.
between all the trainers and kennel staff and the groomer and everything else.
Yeah.
So
yeah, all of this stuff is expensive, man. But yeah, I mean, it's all an investment. And so something that I find so impressive about this is that, like, just the type of guy that you just kind of make it work by any means necessary. And you got in here, and this place was not polished by any means when you got in there. There was a lot of like drywall that had to be like hung, right? There was a lot of painting that had to get done, spackling, all that stuff. And so, by any means necessary, you've just kind of like made this happen. But the thing I find so cool about it is that I was following the progression of it, and you just kept chipping away at it. And now you look at it and you're like, this place is unbelievable. So it's really just a testament to like what can really be accomplished in a year, and really even in a couple month period.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can, many a nights overnight, just hanging out, painting, setting up drywall. My big thing was taking out the tile flooring and all the mortar and, everything underneath it. And, I'm not a construction guy,
Yeah.
So
Just
I had to
figure
go
it
rent
out.
I had to go rent all the equipment and then take time and watch YouTube videos and figure out, okay, well, this is what I need to do that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then, even though you watch the video, when you're actually doing it, it's completely different. And then, when you rent equipment, you're talking hundreds of dollars, per day for these pieces of equipment to do these different things. So now you're on a timeline, because if you don't get it done, now you're extending the amount of time you have the equipment, more money coming out of your pocket. And it just, it can get
very expensive. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, yeah, guys. So the thing that I love about this is Tommy came to me. He saw one of the posts and some of the videos we've been doing in the group recently, and was like, dude, I want to get on another call. I want to talk about some of this stuff. So I just want to say sincerely, thank you for coming to me, man, because, you're taking time out of your day to do this, to genuinely help other trainers. And I just think that's super cool. So,
I think, and then not to cut you off, I think the big thing that we have with trainers right now is we're so dog eat dog, pun intended.
Yeah.
No one wants to help each other, and if you look over in Europe, because they had that same mentality, no one wants to support each other. Now, training equipment's banned. You can't use e-collars, you can't use pinch collars. Right. Just because no one wanted to come together and support each other. So you have a fantastic widespread community of people that are coming from all different backgrounds. You got some bunch of one-off trainers that are, making enough money to survive and be happy and just do their thing and enjoy the dogs, all the way up to $1 million, clients that are doing this, on a huge, massive scale, even bigger than what we're doing. And, I think that if we come together and use you as a focal point, as a communication tool between everybody, I mean, we all can win out,
Totally, man. Yeah. I mean, it's like it's the difference between like the scarcity and the abundance mindset. there's not a lack of dogs. There will never be a
No.
lack of dogs. You know, there's so much opportunity out there for everybody that there, you don't need to have the mindset of like, if I'm, you know, giving away anything, it's going to come back to bite me in the ass or something like that.
Right.
But something that we were talking about right before we got on this call, which I think is going to be super helpful for people, is talking about this time of year that we're coming into with the holidays and stuff like that, and sales. So I know something you really want to touch on today was like having a sales process, understanding lead quality, the buying funnel, where people are when they're coming into your business, if people don't buy, if and when they don't buy, following up with those people. So do me a favor, just walk us through kind of like your methodology from a time that a lead first comes in all the way through the time that they're closing.
So I think part of it starts with you, right?
Mhm.
So that whole process for the most part, unless it's organically, you know, word of mouth or whatever, starts with you. So I think one thing that would be beneficial is how do we as a team, you know, you and I, right? We've had multiple conversations of, hey, dude, you know, I'm getting leads from this area and they suck. They're not producing anything, you know, they can't afford it. And that seems to be the going, you know, opposite, you know, they don't want to do it, right?
Right. That's the objection.
Right. The objection. I think laying it out there that, you know, you're in our corner to have those conversations so that we can really pinpoint those areas that are really feeding the business versus just shotgun blasting and hoping that, you know, throwing that fishing net out there and hoping that we bring in, you know, a conversion of whatever it is, and we get that one lead that pays us for that month or whatever. So I think the big part of the beginning of the sale is really having that true look in the mirror and conversation with you as the media guy, the marketing guy, saying, hey man, like, you know, in my area, this area that we've been promoting sucks. Everything I get from that area is not feeding me, but this area over here is doing really good. Can we shift that money over to that area? Or, you know, I'm getting a lot of calls for this specific type of package. Can we beef up that, you know, ad or whatever? So I think having those conversations with you and then really tracking those metrics is going to be beneficial for you as the marketing guy, so that you know where you can be most beneficial. But you as the consumer, me as the, you know, the business, to know how to talk to you in those manners that you're going to understand. So, and we can probably have a whole nother conversation on that by itself, of where you are, what you do, you know, how you target, and, you know, the ads and all that kind of stuff. That's you, which I think might be beneficial for some people, because, you know, I don't know how any of that crap works. And I mean, to be real, that's why I hired you to do it.
Right.
But
Exactly.
it might be beneficial for me to know, okay, well, when I put this ad out and somebody clicks this is the process, the tunnel it goes down, and then this is how the lead gets to you. You know, and then that might be a way for me to look at my metrics and go, okay, well, that makes sense why I'm losing people in this area, because this group of people, they're, you know, more rural. They want to have that conversation over the phone. You know, they're not looking to get, you know, the millennial, just a text message and it's a quick, you know, here and there. So those might be things that, you know, as the business, considering who we're talking to in our environment, of how to communicate with you to get the best results. The next step would be, obviously, when that email or that text message comes in from your, you know, your pipeline saying, hey, you've got a consultation, or, hey, you know, you got this lead coming in, whether it's from you, whether it's from the website, whether it's a text from one of the ads or whatever, being able to contact that person within the quickest amount of time as possible.
Bingo,
right?
man.
So
I just want to say something real quick about that. That if you guys if you take nothing else away from this conversation, this is one of the most important things, and something that I've really doubled and tripled down on really over the last couple of months with people. Time to response is one of the most important things, right? So Tom, you'll touch on this in a second here, but the amount of times, like, there's nothing for me more painful than when I have someone who wants to work with me or one of my clients, and we get back to that person and they say, hey, thanks so much for getting back to me. We actually found somebody already, but we'll definitely let you know if we need you in the future. To me right there, it's like you just let $2,000 to $4,000 walk away. And it's all because you couldn't get to that call. So instead of getting upset, which a lot of people do, like, why these people they're tire kickers, they don't want to wait, like, I can't live my life like this. It's like, instead of getting upset by the way that it works, it's just the game. And you need to find a way how to operate and win at that game, which is speed, getting in touch with people as quickly as you possibly can. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, dude, absolutely. Please stop me because I'll just keep rolling. You know how I am. So I think there's a spin-off of that a little bit that'll be beneficial too, right? Going back to, like, a lot of times if I get a lead off my website, I know that person is probably anywhere between 75 and 95% sold because our website is so good at giving the information that most people want right away. So I don't deal with a lot of tire kickers off of our website. So in my mind, I know if I get a website lead, yes, I want to try to get that person on the phone, on the hook, on a text immediately, but I know I have a little bit more time to get back to that person. Or if I see in the consultation form, like, how did you hear about us? And it's, referral from, Joe Bob and, you train their dog. I know that person is probably already sold and they're just wanting to confirm things. I know I have a little bit more time to get back in touch with them because they are already there.
Yep.
Leads that I've noticed that come from you, from our Google ads, whatever, those are time sensitive because those people are just searching on Google and they're clicking the first thing that pops up. And thankfully we seem to be, number one in most of our markets. But there's definitely companies out there that are putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in ads every year that I cannot keep up with. So I know that if I don't respond to that immediately, whether I can make the phone call or shoot a text out and say, hey, I'm on a phone call now, or hey, I'm in a lesson, or hey, my time right now is occupied because I'm working. And this is huge. You don't just want to say, hey, I can't get a hold of you right now. Can I call you back? You want to let them know that you're doing something business related. Because now you're busy. You have people that are already working with you, and they are going to be much more apt to stick on the line and wait because they know that you already have clients.
Exactly.
If you don't have clients, you're just making an excuse of, hey man, I can't get back to you, or you just blow it off and then you try to come back later. Those people are just going to go down to the next number. And then the next number, and then the next number, right?
Exactly. It's so true.
And, we've had this conversation of using automations. We've had this conversation, and you guys have already created Alfred, I think is what it's called, to help people with that. Unfortunately, my market, it's very difficult to do the automations because people in the Midwest want to talk to you. And I even went as far as hiring a sales guy, and I let him run wild for 2 months and paid him a ridiculous amount of money for nothing. Because no one's going to know my business the way that I know my business, and no one's going to know the way that we can do things better than I can. Now, that's a double-edged sword because I haven't touched a dog leash more than probably once or twice a week in 6 months. And that sucks because I really did get into this business to train dogs. But we're too big for me to be doing that.
You can't be doing that.
Right. I make more money on the phones than I make money working with the dogs. And when we're running a business, you have to stick with what's making you money.
Yeah. And I just want everyone listening right now to realize that this is the secret sauce that Tommy's giving you right now. And it's not like anything that's super glamorous. It's not anything that is like a hidden gem that you couldn't possibly find out. It's that the secret sauce really is just good customer service. And what good customer service is, when people call you, they have the expectation that someone's going to answer. I had to take a long, hard look at the mirror and really think about this myself, where it's like, I'll catch myself like Googling something or looking for something. And if it's not very easy for me, or someone doesn't answer that phone, I'm like, I may not leave a voicemail. Even though I'm a business owner, I know how it goes. I'm like, I'm going to call the next guy. I'm just, because I need to talk to somebody today. That's just the way that that's the way the world works. That's the world we live in nowadays. It's instant gratification. We have something, we order Amazon, we order groceries that are at our house later that day. Things have become so easy for us. So if you want to know how to beat out your competition and want to know how to differentiate yourself and do things your competition won't do, it starts with answering your phone. And if you really can't get to that call, like Tommy's saying, shoot him a quick text. Let him know that you're with a client. It's going to make you look more professional. It's going to make you look like you have things going on. And it's also going to make them aware that like, while this guy is with his clients, he's with his clients. And he's not just, always going to be answering phone calls and stuff like that. So they'll respect that and really appreciate it.
Most people. Now, the people that don't, you probably don't want them as a client anyway.
Exactly. If they're being unrealistic, that's a different story.
And I mean, and that's, that's kind of the next part of this, right? So you get that person on the hook, you're talking to them, whether it's a text message thread or it's a phone call or it's an email thread, is that client worth your time to actually close and get them in the door? I pass on a lot of clients. And the reason being is because those clients, even though I want to help them, they don't want to help themselves. And it's not worth my time to get a bad review, to have someone talk negatively about the company because they're not willing to put the time in. So those are things that I put in my sales pitch where I'm like, hey, like we will be in this with you 100%, but you as the client have to understand you're not going to get a remote control robot dog back. You're still going to have a dog that has its own brain, has its own personality that you are going to have to manage and work with. If you're not willing to do that, hey, PetSmart is a lot cheaper than us, and you're going to get the same results at that point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my next process is this client even worth me putting my time, my trainer's time into this dog?
Qualifying people.
Right. And that might sound very selfish because a lot of times you'll get people that kick back. Oh, well, you're just in this for the money and, you really don't care about the dog. And the fact of the matter is it's not that I'm in this for the money. It's not that I don't care about the dog. I can train any dog out there. I can manage any dog out there. But if you're not willing to put the effort in that I'm willing to put in to help you with your dog, then I don't want you as a client because it's only going to be negative times for me. And it's that you may call me selfish, you may call me whatever, but I can make 2 more phone calls and sell another package and fill that spot that potentially would have caused me either a refund or more issues down the road.
Yeah. And this is why it's important to have options, right? Because I think a trap that a lot of dog trainers fall into, unfortunately, is they're so limited on the leads that they get, right, when they're first starting out. And they need to have really cheap offers because they feel like they need to sell everybody. And then also they need to sell everybody who comes into their business. So they end up working with people who are problematic. I mean, we've all been there at a stage in our business where we're just trying to get things going. And you sign people up that you probably shouldn't have. And sometimes it works out to be okay. Yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass, whatever. Other times it's like really kind of a nightmare situation. So qualifying people is a really important thing. And it's something I've had to get better at over the years too. It's like, especially when your business gets to a point of sustainability and you have enough, right? You're making enough to pay for yourself. You kind of got to get yourself out of that scarcity mindset of like, I don't necessarily need to work with every single person, especially if they're a massive red flag. Because yeah, you get paid $1,000, $2,000, $4,000, $5,000 up front in some cases. But man, like what does that cost you on the back end sometimes?
Right.
And it's just so much pain.
Right. Or especially like if you're like a one-off trainer, like I was for years, you hire that or you bring on that client and they're texting you at 3 o'clock in the morning. How's my dog doing? Is my dog sleeping okay? Texting you at 10 o'clock at night when you're trying to have downtime with your family. Yeah. And if you don't answer, they're blowing your phone up. And it's, is that client really worth your mental state? Because that's usually what causes burnout with most people. It's not the dogs, it's dealing with the clients.
Yeah.
So bring on the clients that you're willing to work with and sacrifice the ones you're not. They'll find somebody. They found you, they'll find someone else, know, and then that's just one less person you have to worry about.
Well, I'd love to get your opinion on this. Like, what do you think about, because you have a family, right? And so you love to spend time with, your family, your daughters, right? Like, how do you go about that? Do you intentionally, you and I have had a conversation about this. I remember telling me that like, if you're not intentional about the time that you spend with them, you'll always find reasons to not do it. Right. 100%. And so I just had my first son a couple of months ago, and that was something that I took to heart when you told it to me. Right. Yeah, man. And it's really been some of the best advice I've ever received when it comes to parenting, because it's so true. It's like, you can be like, oh, I'm busy, I'm working, I have this project I'm doing. And then you totally miss like bath time or whatever it may be. And it's like, all of a sudden they're a couple months old and, you feel like you haven't been around. And so what are like the boundaries that you set for yourself when it comes to family time and your clients and stuff like that?
So that's all dramatically changed for me in the last probably 6 months. Prior to the 6 months ago, I mean, dude, I was making phone calls at midnight. I was responding to emails. The baby would go down, Kayla would go to sleep. I would jump on my laptop or my phone while I was in bed because I don't sleep. I'm sitting there on my phone responding to emails. Scheduling text messages through an app to get pushed out first thing in the morning so I didn't interrupt people at night. So the big thing with me, so I was blown up 3 times in Iraq, so I have 2 traumatic brain injuries, so I have no concept of time. So my entire life is run off my calendar. And like when I bring people in, because I'm still the one that sends out every update every day to every single client about every single dog, because that to me is a very personal thing, and I want that customer service to be on point. And I don't want anything to get misconstrued, by my trainers saying one thing or saying something else. But I never had a timeline. Like I remember times like I'd be in the kennel working dogs and Kayla would text me, "Hey, dinner's done. Oh, I'm going to get my last couple reps in with these dogs and I'll be home." And it would be 1 o'clock in the morning, me walking the door going, shit, like I just lost track of time. I tell my clients all the time, hey, don't be surprised if you get a text message from me while your dog's with me at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, because I just have no concept of time. And I'm going to send them out as soon as I take the update so that the client has the update. And then I'm not worrying about, okay, well, did I send one out today? Okay, I need to go through all my text messages and make sure I sent them out. I shoot them out as fast as I can. Now that we've got the business, we got this building, I have found myself that I can pull back and actually set hours. So we have trainers in our building from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's trainers and kennel staff. So the doors open at 9 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. So I have pretty much set my schedule up from 9 to 7. And even sometimes I'll even push it out from 11 to 5, where that's like my honey time, my honeymoon, my like golden hour of work productivity. And then the rest of the time I'm checking in with the trainers. I'm doing, handyman crap, replacing outlet covers or, whatever around the building. Because we're still not 100% done yet. I'm still tweaking away at things here and there and making things the way I want them. But like the advice I gave you was, I literally put everything on my calendar, broken down into 15-minute to half-hour sessions to where, dinner starts at 6 o'clock. Okay, that means I got to be at the house by a minimum at 5:30 to take a shower, get ready, spend a few minutes with the kids before.
Sorry, it's my dog Sadie losing it here. Maybe jump there.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I can't jump to the window to help you. I'm sorry.
Come save me.
And then her bedtime is between like 7 and 8. So I got to be there to help her because she likes me sing her to sleep. And we have her set songs that, we sing like Zach Brown and, all that kind of stuff. And I find myself a lot of times, even then, I'm trying to grab my phone and I'm looking like, okay, I got a couple notifications. And for me, I really, because I've been doing this for so long, I really have to consciously say, nope, turn the phone off. So I even done all the smart things where at certain times my phone turns off or my notifications turn off or my phone goes into sleep mode so that I don't get bothered by it.
Good. My version of this was, people always talk about their email. Like my email box is just so full, right? My version of that is my Facebook DMs, right? And like we have clients and that's where we've kind of set the standard. Like that's where they message us because it's just easier to do it that way.
Right.
And so you can literally find yourself where they'll send a message to you at 10 p.m. because something pops up on their mind. And I, for the longest time, treated it like I need to respond right now. And it was kind of reinforced by people saying to me, like, I love that you get back to me at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, well, shit, now I've set that standard if that's what I'm going to do. But nobody's having a heart attack, right? Like it can wait till the morning, right? And I think that you have to, like, what is all this for? What is all building this business? what is it all for if you're not going to enjoy it, or if it's just going to become something that is such a burden in your life where it's just nonstop and you're a tyrant on yourself to make the machine run, right? Like you have to be able to spend the time with your family and your kids and take time for yourself so you don't get burnt out. So I just want to talk about something because like this seems like something that's really basic to you. But I even remember for myself, like there was a period of time where I operated totally off of sticky notes, man, and totally off of sticky notes. And I didn't even use a calendar. So for anybody out there, like who's not even using like Google Calendar or Apple Calendar, I would recommend
free.
Google. It's free. And it's like, it unlocks the next level in your life where you can start putting things on there. And I'm sorry to everyone who uses Apple Calendar or Google Calendar. Like, what is this guy talking about? It's just super basic, but there's a lot of people that are coming into this group where they don't know any of this. They're starting their first business. So,
or even if they are using it, they're not using it to the full extent that they can be.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like a game changer when you do that. And then to your point, time blocking everything out in like 20-minute increments. Like this is what I'm doing. You can schedule it out and something magical happens, man. When you put stuff on the calendar and you become intentional about it, it all of a sudden gets done, right? Instead of just becoming one of those projects that gets added to the laundry list and you're like, oh, I'll get around to that. I'll do that eventually.
Yeah. So big thing that I found was it's not the amount of time you spend on something, it's the quality of time you spend on something. Mm-hmm. So like for me, like I will book out 3 to 4 hour block of where I am just slamming the phones, you know, whether it's contacts that I didn't get a hold of, or I missed, or I never got heard back from, because then I'm optimizing my time because I know, okay, I've got this much amount of time and I need to accomplish this. And I'll set a goal like, okay, my goal for this block is to sell 3 or 4 board and trains, you know, mm-hmm. 1 an hour, you know, and at that point, like if they don't answer, I'm going right to the next number and I'm going to the next number and I'm, oh, cool. You're on the phone, boom, boom, boom. And then even though that someone might call me back on that phone, why I'm doing this, sorry, unless I'm in the middle of dialing and you call me, I am not calling you back. Now I might be on that call and I might send out a text message. Hey, thank you so much for calling me back. You know, unfortunately, I'm on a call right now. Can I schedule a call with you, you know, tomorrow or later this evening? And then at least that point, I can multitask a little bit, not very much, but a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm still doing my due diligence of making sure that even though I call that person, they call me back, I'm still making contact with them. But I'm keeping that person that I have on the phone engaged and finishing that sales call versus trying to shuffle back and forth.
I think that this is a super important thing to talk about here because what you're talking about right now is prospecting, like finding people that you can set sales with or set an opportunity where you can make a sale to them, right? Yep. And so I think a lot of times people think that, you know, or lose sight of how important prospecting actually is. But if you don't block out time to do this and return calls to leads like once a day, you know, all of a sudden a couple days that's how a couple days go by, or like, you know, 2 days go by and you just never touch base with that person. You know, they called, you missed them, you tried to call them back, they didn't answer. And then it just like, I'll call them back later. And it just never happens. Right. Yep. So again, unless you're intentional about it and you actually set the time to do it, I would recommend everyone who's listening, like at least like midday, right? Like set some time or at the end of the day where you can sit down for an hour, go through who tried to get in touch with me today, who have I been playing phone tag with, who can I try and call now, and just go through that list of people, get them on the call, because that's going to be a game changer. You're going to get some people on the phone and you're going to start making some sales.
And it's a game of playing it back and forth, right? So I found here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we get no calls. Like no one answers their phones when we call. Saturday evening, Sunday, we get slammed with contacts. Monday, typically no one answers in the morning. But Monday afternoon, Tuesday and Wednesday sometimes is usually my golden time to make calls and get back in touch with people if I don't get in touch with them before. So figuring out your best time to make those calls and be due diligent about putting that on your calendar and spending that time doing that thing. You know, the longer you postpone it or, you know, oh, I'll get back to it. Now you go from having to make 3 or 4 callbacks to having 15, 20, 30 of them. And then it just keeps piling. And then you get overwhelmed because there's too many contacts, you know, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times what I do is at the end of the month, like the last couple of days of the month, I'll print off that sheet that you have, that spreadsheet
Yeah.
from that month's contacts. And I'll go all the way back to the very beginning. And I don't care if I've sold them. I don't care if I've had the conversation with them. I've never got in touch with them. I'm calling them as a new prospect. Yeah. And if I've already sold them, I've already gone through training, great. Hey, how is everything going since the last time I spoke to you? Take that opportunity to, check back in.
Yeah.
And I do that at the end of every month. And, sometimes that's 30, 40, 50, 60 contacts. But my goal is to spend one day to recap all those contacts that have come from you. And then I'll do another day that's a recap of all the contacts that's come from our website. So that's 2 days and I'm hitting between, 50 to, 100 phone calls in a few hours.
Yeah. That's unbelievable, man. Yeah. I just wanted to touch on something real quick. You reminded me of something. You use the term like golden hour a couple of times. I read this book. It's called Fanatical Prospecting. I highly recommend this to anybody. And one of the chapters he talks about like time blocking and talking about the golden hours of doing this. So this is something that's really cool that you're in tune with that I think a lot of people don't think about. It's like the times when people will answer their calls, the times when people will call you, and being prepared for that and optimizing your time around that. And so he talks about this, and this is largely like talking about like running a sales department and auditing sales departments and stuff like that. And, for the industry that he was working in or helping out with in this particular chapter, they knew that like the golden hours were between 10 a.m. to like 11:30, right? And then all of a sudden people are going to lunch. And right. So a lot of times it was like non-negotiable, right? Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11:30, everyone on the sales team is hanging a sign on their door, right? Getting on the phone saying, do not disturb, just calling everybody up. And not like being like, hey, do you want to go get coffee with me? It's like, no, because this is when I need to do this. Yep. And so again, like this is, I think one of the really sexy things that people like to talk about in their business is my close rate. I close 80% of people, right? That's cool. But what if you only set 4 people? What if you only talk to 4 leads in a month? It's like, okay, then it's really not that impressive, right? But I'd rather you close 60% of people, but get 40 consultations booked every single month, 40 phone calls booked every single month, right? Those numbers are going to be just astronomical when you compare them against each other.
Well, and knowing your strong point too, right? So there was a post that Jeff Allen posted where he was having the lead problems or whatever, and he got them to commit to a evaluation. So like for me, I'm really strong on the phones. Like most of my calls, if I got somebody on the phone, I can normally close them. But I know for a fact that I'm going to close a lot more people in person because I can read body language. I can, pick up on a lot more in person. So if I feel a call isn't going my way, I'm pushing for an eval.
Yeah, exactly. I'm shifting here and you're coming in for an eval now.
100%. Right. Yeah. And, because I know that if they come in the building and they see what we have, they're going to be, overwhelmed with that. Not to mention, one of the things that I do for every eval is I teach the dog something.
Yeah.
And whether it's I lure the dog into a sit, or I try to accomplish something that the owners have never been able to do, to show, hey, we are worth you coming and spending the time coming in here and talking, you sending your dog to us and spending that money, and that we actually are what people tell you that we are.
Yeah.
I give a hell of a sales presentation for every eval, because to me, that's the bread and butter of this business, is getting in front of people, building that community and networking with those people and making them feel comfortable. Yeah. You record everything. So, you've heard me do sales, and I've turned people straight away from, yep, you're too expensive, to, okay, can you come pick up my dog now?
Yeah.
But it's gone the other way too, where it's like, okay, well, hey, I'm going to come out and do an evaluation. If you like what I do, I'm taking your dog today.
Yeah.
And everything in between. So
exactly. Yeah.
And I've even had, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I would love to hear, like, when you bring people in for evals, like because I always get this question, right? And so this is something we've been putting together as like a way to conduct evaluations, consultations, but I'd love to kind of hear exactly how you structure them. Like, what are you looking for in an in-person eval, and how do you conduct them?
So in-person eval, I start my eval the moment I see them get out of their car. And a lot of times I'm starting it as soon as I see the car with a dog in it, and whether I'm guessing that that's probably my eval or maybe a walk-in, which happens too. But as soon as I see somebody roll around our front of our building with, a dog, I'm like, okay, here we go. This is where it starts.
Yep.
So I'm looking to see, is the dog jumping out of the vehicle? Are they struggling to get a leash on the dog?
Yeah.
Is the dog pulling them through the door? Are they trying to potty the dog and the dog just blowing them off and smelling everything else?
Yeah.
And then when they come through our doors, we have a double door. So basically it's like an airlock. You have an outer door that goes outside, and then there's an inner door on the inside. And there's like a 10-foot chamber on between those two doors. So I'm watching, okay, does the dog have any door manners? Can they navigate the doors well? Is the dog going ballistic when it sees its reflection in the window?
Yeah.
We've seen, aggressive dogs almost break my panel on my window trying to go after itself. They come in and, the first thing I do is I introduce myself, and then I act like I've never saw the consultation form. I just, hey, thanks for coming in. My name's Tommy. I'm the CEO of Modern Canine Solutions. Who is this? Talking about their dog. And, they introduce their dog, they introduce themselves. I'm like, okay, so, what brings you guys in today? Refresh my memory on what's going on. Because just because they put something in a consultation form doesn't mean that that's the actual problem they have with their dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I can't tell you all enough where it's like, oh, my dog doesn't listen. Okay, well, are you actually communicating with your dog? Versus just screaming at your dog or beating your dog or whatever. So then I let them, talk for however long they need so they can get, and a lot of times I just ask leading questions, okay, well, how's that affecting you and your dog? How's that affecting your life outside the house? How's it affecting your life in the house?
Yeah.
Can you take your dog places? Does your dog have dog friends? Do you have doggy play dates? Do you go to the dog park? I'm asking these questions to figure out what their lifestyle is with their dog.
Questions are massive. And I think that they're the key to really unlocking what the real problem is, because you can never assume that people have asked themselves these questions, right? And so like, what are you actually doing here? Well, my dog doesn't listen. That is such a vague answer, and it doesn't really tell you anything, right? Like, well, what happened? Like, what made you realize that your dog doesn't listen? Was it that they ran out into the middle of the street and you realized that you were calling their name and they just were blowing you off? Does your dog bark at the door and, you tell them to stop and they, like, what exactly is it? There's something that's going on or something that really caught their attention. So I think it's important to ask questions to get them to drill down and tell you that stuff, and letting them, instead of letting them control the conversation, go, well, they just don't listen. Because that could mean so many different things.
100%. And then you're not, and then if you don't dig deep, now you're selling on a surface problem versus the root problem. And then if you sell them on this, if that's really not what they're concerned about and the root problem is, now you have a flimsy sale because you don't really know what the real problem is.
Yeah.
Or you start addressing this issue when it's this issue over here, and you start focusing on this. And then when you go to your go home lesson, they're like, well, that's not what the problem was. The problem was this. And then now you're like, oh shit.
I didn't know that because I never asked.
Because you didn't take the time to ask the questions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then most of the time I'll take the dog from the owners. I want to see how the dog responds away from the parents, if the dog will engage with me, if it's food motivated, if the dog the whole time is paying attention to mom and dad, if they're going to do a board and train, I know it's going to be a lot longer of a board and train because it's going to take an adjustment period. If it's going to be lessons, I may or may not be able to show them anything during those lessons because the dog's going to be so hyper-focused on the parents. I'm just going to be a problem. So those are all things I'm looking at. And then, after that, one of my main questions is, hey, have you even been on our website? Do you even know what we offer? Do you know around about what we charge for package? Not usually use that question. Usually my question is, have you had a chance to go on our website and do you already know what you're kind of interested as far as training packages go?
Yeah.
And if they say no, then I know that I have some wiggle room of what I can tell them and sell, as far as what's going to benefit them. If they already know ahead of time, then I can start kind of guiding my conversation to them to really figure out in their mind what their budget is and what kind of package I can sell them. Yep. Because ultimately your main objections are going to be money. They're going to be a timeline. And then they're going to be, I have to talk to my spouse.
Yeah. Which is like, let's think about that, right? It's like, what do you need to talk to your spouse about?
You're already here.
Or that it's like, or like they need to talk about money, but it's like, that's a great question to ask them too, is like, what do you think they would say? If this, it sounds like something, this is something you'd be interested in doing. What do you think your spouse would say if you told them that you want to do this? Right.
Or even what I do is I just say, okay, let's say your spouse says you're good to go. when would you guys like to start training?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
like
and
that. That's good, man. Yeah.
I don't pull punches. I'm a very blunt and straight
Yeah.
in people's face. You know, if you've made the time to come to my building and do an evaluation, you're already interested.
Yeah.
Right. You already know kind of who we are, because most people, they're not just going to walk into a building or a company without doing some research, looking at reviews or something.
Yep.
At least I know I don't.
Yep.
So them coming to you, you should already have a step in the door of selling and, you know, closing that sale.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to say something real quick about that, because I think that's a really good point, Tommy. It's very easy to get caught up and go, like, you go and do an evaluation, or for me, it's like I get on a sales call with somebody and go, you can convince yourself if they don't buy, you go, well, they were just a tire kicker, right? Like, they just weren't the right client for me. It's like, look at it through a very practical lens and go, are they a dog owner? Do they live in the St. Louis area? Do they have a dog that's misbehaving and they want to change those behaviors? Yes. Then if so, they are my client, and there's something that I didn't do to get them across the finish line.
Yeah. Unless you fired them as a client.
Exactly. Which is a whole different story. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, so for me, like, the big thing, like, is like when I get to that point, like where I'm trying to close my sale, like, I typically don't do hard sales. Just because I don't feel like you need it. And if you've built the rapport during the process of the evaluation, the phone calls, you know, your website's on point, you know, your Facebook posts are, you know, pretty consistent. Everybody sees what you're doing. You're putting videos out there, and not the cheesy freaking sped up videos that, you know, you can't really see what's going on. You know, it's a lot of music over the top, like actual good content.
Yeah.
Your sales presentation should just be more of a check in the box saying, you know, when do you want to start and which package do you want to do? Or if you don't know, okay, with what I'm seeing with your dog, this would be my recommendation. What's holding you back from doing this? And usually at that point, my recommendation is always a board and train. And it's not because I make more money off of it. I get better results.
Yeah.
Hands down. So usually my number one thing that people don't want to do it is because of money. So, okay, well, how can I make that better for you? Can I break it up in half? You know, half when you start, half when before the dog comes home. Okay, that's even too much too. Okay, well, let's do a lessons package. You know, we can get a lot done in lessons, but you're not going to get everything that you get out of a board and train. Yeah. But I understand budget's a real thing for people. So how can we at least get some kind of training done that's going to be beneficial for you and your dog?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, our lowest package is $200 for 10 sessions. So $20 a lesson for group lessons. I mean, you can't beat it. If you have a dog and you can't afford $200, you shouldn't have a dog.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So,
everyone can afford $200. You know, I hate to be, I know there's people on like that have fallen on really hard times, but if people want to spend $200, they're going to find a way to do that.
Right. I mean, meth addicts don't have money and they still get their meth. So, facts. So
seriously, yeah.
But same with that analogy, right? You as a dog training business, like if you need money, go out there and do it.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a Marine Corps recruiter, dude, I was making 100 to 150 phone calls a day trying to get that one kid a month to come in the Marine Corps. And I was in Sacramento, California, or San Francisco, and that's like the armpit of recruiting. Yeah. So, you know, you have to be willing to do the work. You know, and some months, you know, all that work you did the previous month is going to pay for that month. But you can't get comfortable with that and slack off, because then you're not going to have a shitty month the next month.
Exactly.
You know, so you have to be consistently putting the time and effort in every day, every week, every month, because the months before are going to feed the next month. And the month that you're in now is going to feed 2 months down the road. Yeah. And if you start booking out 2-3 months, you may be able to slack off on maybe the amount of calls, because let's be real, you're booked out for 3 months, right? And you're filling to 4 months now. But those dogs eventually are going to come into your program. They're eventually going to go home, and you're going to have to replace those dogs. And if you're taking the time off, you're going to get into a slump. And then now you're going to be calling Kevin, dude, I'm not getting any dogs. What do I need to do? And Kevin's going to go, well, put $1,000 a month into your ads versus $200.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, I think that's a really good point. Like, the stuff that you do today is the stuff it's not going to affect you tomorrow. It's going to affect you. Like, but more than likely it's going to affect you in 2 weeks,
Right.
30 days, right? Sometimes in some cases, even like 60 days. So you can't think about like, well, I'm busy now, so I can like stop answering my calls now, because that's a cycle that a hamster wheel that a lot of people are stuck on, which is like they're busy. And because they're busy, they stop answering calls, they stop returning emails. And then all of a sudden they're slow. And then it's like a mad dash to get busy again. And it's like, you don't want to be wishy-washy like that. You know, just
it's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, man. Yeah. So yeah, all of this stuff. I mean, this is super powerful stuff. And I think that something you said before, which is very true, is, you know, we could talk about sales all day long. We could talk about how to handle objections, but to your point, you don't want everything to be an uphill battle, a hard sale. It's like if every single sale ends with you having to, you know, handle a million objections and hard sell people and hard close them, something's going wrong. And you need to, you know, evaluate what your sales pitch looks like, because not everyone should be that hard of a close.
So my thought process is, if you're doing a bunch of hard sales, like if every call you're doing, well, one, you're going to burn out because you're not going to make those calls.
Yeah.
You're not doing something right prior to the call.
Mm-hmm.
Your ads aren't on point. Your social media is not on point. Your website's not on point.
Yeah.
That's why you're having hard sales. That's why you're having objections. That's why people aren't wanting to commit to you, because all your pre-work stuff that should just be set up and you not even have to worry about it isn't doing 90% of the work.
Yeah.
A lot of my sales are super easy because everything we've done prior with your ads, my Facebook posts, our website, word of mouth, when they call, they're ready to sign up.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you started talking about this in the beginning, and I want to go back to this for a second. What you were talking about in the beginning, it's like us refining the whole thing. Like you and I were running ads for a year, right? And then we pretty much came back a couple months ago and you were like, hey, we're in this facility now. We kind of are attracting a different type of clientele. This is kind of what I want to start targeting, because these people in this area are not buying, right? And so we went back and did that. It's like, that is all about generating quality traffic, you know? So it all starts with like what we're, you know, when we're running ads campaigns, it's like, I get people that, you know, tell me their ads accounts, my ads account doesn't work. And then we look at the traffic and it's like, well, yeah, because you're getting people that are contacting you about bird dog hunting, or you're getting people like, those are the keywords they're searching for, or they're looking for a dog groomer and you don't do grooming, right? And so it all starts about generating quality traffic, sending it to a page that's informative, is like interest them. And then from there, it's like, you've teed it up to your point, where it's like, you know that the person you're getting on this call with is looking for dog training. They've read stuff about you. They've seen your reviews. They're warmed up enough where you can actually make this sale.
Right. Yeah. And that's, if you're having hard sales every time, your pre-work isn't being done right.
Yeah.
Because they're coming to you. Like, these people are literally looking you up, putting their information in. You know they're interested. Yeah. So you, as the salesman, you're either pushing people away because you're a dick, or you're too pushy, or whatever, right? The persona, or you're trying to close hard sales and push that person. You know, my favorite thing to do to people, like, they'll come in and they'll be expecting a hard sale, is, hey, you know, go home, talk about it, get back to me tomorrow, or I'll give you a call tomorrow and we'll check back in and see how things are going. I can't tell you. I tell people that and they look at me like, really?
Yeah, you're going to let me walk out of here?
And a lot of times they'll end up leaving their dog.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we don't need to talk about it. Yeah, we're good. We're going to leave the dog with you guys today. Okay, cool. Yeah. You know, stop doing the pushy crap. You know, you're not used car salesmen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And, you know, the talking about quality of traffic, to your point, this is such a blessing that service-based businesses have, right? Where, like, take dog trainers, right? Like, you have the luxury of having, you know, systems, whether it's like, you know, Facebook or Google, where people are calling you. You know this as a recruiter. Outbound is so much more difficult when you got to find a list of people that aren't looking necessarily, or maybe they opted into something months ago, right? Like, yeah, I'd like more information. Now you have their email and their number, and you're calling them and you're trying to start that conversation. These people, when they're coming to you, they're in the time of need. And that is such a better place to be operating from, instead of having to reach out to people and say, hey, do you want my help? Like, imagine just going down a phone book and trying to sell dog training to those people. It would be brutal.
Oh, I've done that.
Of course you have. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was having a hard month. This was years ago. I opened up my phone book and I was like, all right, we're going to start with the A's. I
Yeah.
just started cold calling, dude. I
Yeah.
made a couple sales, but most of the time people don't answer. It's a lot of waste of time.
Yeah.
I even went the route of paying for leads. Like I went out to some marketing company and I was paying like $500-600 a month for a bundle of leads that would come across my email, and it was a list. And I just started calling people off of it. I never got anything out of it because they weren't the leads that I needed.
They weren't like looking for training in that time. Yeah.
No, it was like a list of people that had dogs. Like that was literally what the requirement to be on the list was.
Yeah.
Your system works really well. I was having this conversation with Jim O'Brien the other day, and yes, we're paying for leads more or less through you, but with your system and the way things are done, not only are you getting the paid leads, but you're also getting a ton of organic growth. Mm-hmm. And again, if your website is set up correctly, that organic growth should pay for itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people say, it's funny. People say that to me when they first sign up, like they get no website traffic. And then, so with the way that we do it is we run ads, we run them to a landing page and people opt in there, call, submit a contact form there. Sometimes, I mean, we live in a world where people have become more savvy, right? They know they're on a landing page versus a website. So they want to go see that profile, look at reviews. And so I've had some people say to me like, and all of a sudden my website traffic is boosted too. And it's like, yeah, it's not a coincidence, right? Because now you're promoting your page or your business at the top of Google. People are going to research you. They're going to find out more information. So yeah, man, I mean, the quality of leads, I think it's important for everyone to understand that there's different tiers, right? Like in my opinion, at least the holy grail, right? The easiest sale you'll ever make is somebody coming to you, they're a word of mouth referral. Hey, my sister trained with you guys. She said it was the best thing she's ever done. We already know that it's expensive. It's $4,000, the program they did. We already have the money. We're ready to get started. That's teed up for you, right? There's different levels to it though. Like someone coming off your website or somebody who, is coming off your ad, those people aren't quite as warmed up, but they're still tiers above what the alternative is, like what you were saying before, buying a list of people who bought a dog years ago, and now you're trying to sell them training.
Yeah. And so another big thing, and we've had the conversation, like Kayla was running our sales for a little bit when it was just her and I was training. Yep. And, she was getting diarrhea of the mouth, right? She'd get the person on the phone, she'd excited, they were interested, and just blah, 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 and you just overwhelm the person with so much information that they're like, okay, yeah, we'll get back to you. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I've noticed too is, besides just getting diarrhea of the mouth, people just, they don't know how to communicate. Mm-hmm. They get on these calls and they don't know what to say. They don't know how to talk to the people. They don't know how to relate to people. You have to create an emotional connection with that client. If you don't make the emotional connection, you're never going to close the sale, because they're not going to connect with you. Yeah. I like sales. It's a challenge, like a chessboard sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
The other big thing is never make assumptions about who that person is. We had just last month, we had this client walk in. It was a husky and a golden doodle. And they looked like, a janitor and, his whole family. And, they didn't look like they had a whole lot of money. I thought it was going to be a hard sale. And, we started, I stepped out. I had a phone call to make. Kayla took over and I didn't even hear anything that happened. But the next thing I know, she's running to the back door and she's like, oh, they want to do a 4-week double board and train with these 2 dogs. And I'm like, okay, sell it. Yeah. And she's like, well, can I give him a discount? I'm like, of course. Yeah. And I was like, that doodle is going to be super easy. That husky is going to be a pain in the ass. I was like, give him a discount on that doodle. Yeah, exactly. And so she did. And they were like, okay, cool. We're going to leave the dogs. We'll be back in about an hour with cash. And they drove to the bank, came back with like $7,500 cash. And
damn, wow.
There we go.
Yeah.
So never assume that the people you're dealing with don't have the means or can't come up with the means to pay for your package. Because if you do your due diligence and you are you fit the reputation of who you are and the products you give, people will pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep you all night. It's already like 6:15 here. So I want to ask you a couple more questions. I want to talk on that point real quick about like discounts. So, I know that there's a lot of people out there in all different, industries who will say like, your prices are what they are. Don't discount them. You're worth, you got to charge what you're worth and stuff like that. But I'm a big proponent of, if the deal's right there, it's right at the finish line, and all they need is a little nudge and a little like sweetening the deal for them. I'll do that all day long, right? If you have a $4,000 offer and you need to give it to them for $3,500, especially if you're really trying to get clients in, I'm all about that. I mean, what do you think about that, Tommy?
So I think in your beginning stages, throwing out discounts here and there, it can be double-edged. It can hurt you and it can also benefit you, right?
Yeah.
So I don't do a whole lot of sales. Like, I may do one sale a year.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of these trainers that, every couple of weeks they're putting out another sale. They're putting out another sale. To me, that tells me you're struggling.
Mm.
If you're constantly having to put out sales, that means you don't have dogs in your kennel. Otherwise, you wouldn't be giving sales.
Yeah.
I like to give a sale every once in a while because it brings in traffic that we never would have had before.
Yeah. So a dollar amount off or like a percentage off, something like that.
Yeah. Like, like I'm considering throwing a Black Friday sale out because we haven't done a sale in 2 years, and just doing like 20% off Black Friday.
Yeah.
Whatever, you have 24 hours, all day Friday. If you sign up and get in the kennel portal and you're in before midnight on Friday night, golden, you got 20% off.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet. I'm still considering. We do give a standard discount package. So we have law enforcement, military, first responder, which is 10%. We have a multi-dog discount, which will be your first dog is full price, second, third, fourth dog are all 10% off.
Cool.
And then we have a rescue discount. If you can provide the rescue documentation, we'll give you 10% off for your dog. If a rescue organization is paying for the training, we'll give them up to 20% off for a dog. If the rescue is actually paying for it. And we have 2 or 3 rescues that send us 2 to 3 dogs a month, where they're paying out of their pocket. So we give them a pretty good discount to help them, rehome the dog, train the dog, make it more appeasing to get adopted, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's pretty much the most that we'll do. Just because, again, if you're having a discount all the time, in my mind, like,
yeah,
you're hurting.
Yeah. And there's something, again, back to the original point of like, there's something going wrong in the sales process where it's like, if everybody needs to be discounted, it's like, then you just either can't justify your prices and, right, you're like above market value or something like that. But I think that, I think that it can be a tactic that people can use sparingly, right? Like, especially if it's somebody that you really gravitate towards, you kind of feel like this is somebody I really want to help, I really want to work with. It doesn't need to be used for everybody, but I do think giving yourself the permission where it's like somebody's right at the finish line, you want the money, you want to work with the dog, $200 off. To me, it's like, if it gets it across the finish line, that's $3,800 in your pocket. It's something worth doing, right? And then as you grow, you're not going to have to do that for forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as your one-off, one person trainer or just getting into it, a small discount here and there is not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Do not. This is like my one fucking no, do not do this for any beginning trainer. Do not trade training for freaking Google reviews or Facebook reviews.
Yeah.
Like, that will bite you in the ass so quick.
Yeah.
Give them a big discount. I mean, 50% off, but make them pay for something, because once the training is done, I mean, they don't have to give you that review,
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it is. Yeah,
I know. And we've all been there. Like, why hasn't this person written a review? They said they were going to. And then sometimes it's not even malicious. They just are like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And they just totally forget,
And that's part of our go home package is, once the dog's training's done, they're at the house. If we do an in-home lesson when we're leaving, we send out a text message. Hey, thank you so much for trusting us with your dog. We live and die off our reviews. We'd love it if you gave us, a review on our Facebook and Google page. Here's the links. Also, here is our our Facebook private group for our clients only, where we put out more information, more training. You get the first know-hows of events that are coming up. And then we do a follow-up in 2 weeks. And if I haven't gotten a review in 2 weeks, cool. My trainer's bringing it up again. Hey, do you mind if I'm going to pull up on my phone. Here's do you mind giving us a review? Because if you're not having reviews, people can't see your work. And I'm not tech savvy by any means. I'm horrible with technology. I mean, my phone, I'm surprised it's working right now. We were phones down for the last week. And somehow we're still making it. I don't know. It's crazy.
But yeah, reviews, social proof. That's what they are. It's like this is proof that other people have worked with you. They've had a good experience and that people can trust you. But hey, something I'd love to talk about here. You brought this up. This is something I've been thinking a lot about over the past couple of months, is lifetime value when it comes to clients. Mm-hmm. And so I'd love to hear what you're doing currently, things that you're thinking about, either that you're doing now or for the future, to kind of increase lifetime value. So if anyone doesn't know what that means, like somebody pays you once for dog training, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the only transaction that they ever do with you, right? So what are ways that we can kind of keep them coming back, paying for different things?
So your easiest client is a previous client, right?
Yep.
So for our board and train packages, we give lifetime support.
Yep.
So free follow-ups, free refreshers. Now, in our contract, when it comes down to that, it states that if you're not doing the things that we're recommending, you're not doing the protocols, the training, blah, 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 that can be null and voided because you're not doing your part. Again, This is also prepping clients beforehand, saying, hey, we're going to do most of the work, but you still have to do some work here.
Do something. Just do something. Yeah.
So along with the lifetime support, now that we have a facility and we're doing group lessons, we throw in free group lessons for the life of the dog for our board and train clients. It just gives them another chance to get in here and do some more training. For me, it's a pulse check because I can see those dogs. I can go, yep, we trained that dog. You're doing awesome. Keep doing that. Or what the hell have you done to my dog? We also do pack walks where, we meet up. We haven't done any this year just because we've been so slammed with this building, but typically during the summer, we'll do like once a month, we all go out somewhere and meet up and go do an hour-long walk or whatever. It's a big promotional thing for us, but it's a good thing for the clients because they're working around other dogs, other people in a different environment, stuff like that. What else do we do? So a lot of that feeds into other things, right? So most of my trainers are all AKC, CGC evaluators. So we put on CGC prep courses. If they're a lifetime client, they get a discount on that. So now we're still making residual money off them coming in for those things. We have seminars. So we'll have like problem solving seminars where we're teaching a weekend class for 10, 15 dogs, just whatever the format is. They get a discount on that. We have Larry Crone coming out in March. So all of our previously trained dogs got first picks of the seats with that because we announced it first in our group chat.
Oh, sweet.
And we're already sold out. It's in March. So
nice, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you looking to have you ever dabbled in the idea of like charging for like group classes or anything like that for previous clients, like having a subscription they can pay for or something like that? So,
we're tossing around the idea of kind of doing what, what's his name? Dave Croyer. Mm-hmm. He's got his Croyer TV for like $10 a month and he's got like 400 videos on there. So we're tossing around the idea of doing something like that as far as a subscription goes. Like our personal protection clients, we do them on a contract basis most of the time. So that's a residual, it's usually a 2 or 3 year contract. And while the puppy's in training through adulthood and all that kind of stuff, they're paying, $500, $600, $700, depending on what all the dog is being trained for. Over that time frame. So we have residual coming in from that. And then by the time it's paid off, the dog's ready to go home. And then, they get lifetime support with that as well. It just varies.
Yeah. I mean, but I like that idea. Even if you were to leverage something like Zoom, right, or Google Meet, whatever you want to use, but having something where you could have a subscription and it could be cheap. It's just like the water bill. Like nobody really notices when the water bill comes out, right? Or at least unless you have like massive financial problems. But you know, like the thing is if you become that, where like you just are like a charge that's coming out. Like a good example of this is Planet Fitness memberships, right? Like they know that their model is entirely, you know, based on the goal that nobody cancels their membership because it's $10 a month or whatever it is. Right. So like if you can have something like that where it's like, we're not doing this because we want to sell people into something they're never going to use, but if they use it once a month or even once every 3 months, and it's like they're getting value out of it, and they can show up to a call, ask their questions, or show up to a group class, ask their questions, it is something that people get value out of. So, you know, I think it's a different, the thing is all of this takes time. It all takes energy to kind of implement. And it's like where the situation you're in right now, you know, you're up to your eyeballs in training as is already. So stuff like this is probably something that's on the horizon for you guys. So I'd love to kind of hear like what you think about stuff like that.
So one of my mentors, I pay for mentorship. We do a weekly call. It was a $5,000 buy-in. And basically we cover business, we cover credit, we cover, you know, business loans, everything. And, you know, for the program that I bought into was $5,000 for life, which for most people, that's a lot of money for education. But I can't tell you like how much more money I've made by being part of this community, part of this group.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so that for me was a big benefit. Another mentor is the Lion's Den through like Sean Whalen. You know, it's $300 a fucking month, but you're networking with billionaires and millionaires and the average Joe. And, you know, the conversation is all off, you know, how to better yourself, how to better your business, how to better your family, how to, you know, have a better relationship with your wife or your spouse or whatever. So self-investment's huge too, right? So if you're not investing in yourself, you're becoming stagnant. And if you're stagnant, you're dead. So, you know, in the Marine Corps, if you're not moving, you're communicating. If you're not communicating, you're shooting. And if you're not shooting, you're dead.
That's a great metaphor for life, man.
Right.
In business in general, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think that this is, I mean, I pay for mentorship. I've been through programs, same thing, you know, a couple $1,000s to pay for them. And it's like, the way that I look at it is like, you get to expedite your learning and you get to all of a sudden like stand on the shoulders of giants, right? You get to just get plugged in to that information that they have that otherwise could take you years to learn and cost you thousands of dollars learning it, right? So what's the trade-off? $5,000 and now you have access to somebody who can teach you how to get financed in your business, get cash when you need it to do different things. You know, so I'm a huge proponent of that as somebody who does coaching for people and stuff like that as well. It's like, you can't expect yourself to know how to do everything, right? Unless you've done it before, the sacrifice is either going to be financial or it's going to be time, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, it can be both, where it's like you lose time and you lose money. So you can do it the other way, where it's like, hey, show me how to do this. Give me a proven model that already works and just expedite the whole thing.
So I think that's probably another direction that we're going to start pushing into, just because we have been so successful with this. And, you know, I mean, I'm doing it right now for free. You know, I might as well get paid for my time. You know, and everybody has the ability to learn, whether it's something they already know or it's a refresher or it's something completely new. You know, I'm sure a lot of people that see this video, you know, they probably know it, but they don't realize that people are taking how much time to do certain things. You know, they think that, you know, there was one post somebody posted on your group where it was like, you know, how many dogs are people running? And I was like, well, we're running, you know, 20 to 30 a month. And she's like, well, that must be nice. And I'm like, I've busted my ass to get where I'm at. You know, it's not like something was handed to me. I'm a poor kid. You know, I come from North County, St. Louis. You know, I was a little ghetto hood rat growing up and
getting into fights.
That's all I did growing up.
I know. I remember you telling me that.
You know, and, you know, my family's poor, you know, I make more money probably than anybody in my family. And
and so I know you've shadowed people in the past or had people shadow you in the past, right? Is that something that you're still pushing now, or that's more so what you're talking about for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I've never pushed it. I've had, you know, trainers that are friends of mine or that are, you know, local that know me or whatever, and they'll reach out and be like, hey, you know, I'm struggling. Like, I need some help. And I'm a very giving person. You know, I believe in kindness, and, you know, kindness by definition is, giving without, thought of return.
Yep.
And I feel like if you do that wholeheartedly and you believe that you're doing that and you're doing it for the right reasons, it'll be returned to you tenfold. It may not happen immediately. It might be 2 years, 5 years, 20 years down the road. But I believe in giving out of kindness and not, expecting anything in return. So I've had trainers, come and shadow me for a week, I've had trainers pay me to come out to them and do things with them and be like, hey man, I got this hard case. I don't know what to do, but I don't want to lose the dog. And I really want to help these people.
Yeah.
I do phone calls all the time. I get trainers calling me all the time. Hey man, is Kevin a real guy? Is this legit? How are you doing what you're doing? Now you've only been open for, a year and a half.
Yep.
How are you doing these things? And, I give it away for free. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to touch me. So I won't be out hustled. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's for damn sure, man. Yeah. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this tonight. Let's wrap it up for here. We'll have to do another one of these in the future. But yeah, man, is there anything else you want to plug for tonight? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot,
Yeah.
A little recap of, make sure your front end stuff, your first impressions are on point so that, you're not having to do a bunch of hard sales.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling with that, reach out to you. Kevin knows his shit. He can get your front line stuff all in place.
Yeah. Same thing with Tommy. I mean, I don't want to put you out there, but guys, sincerely, this is one of the most genuine people you will meet in the dog training world. So I don't want to bombard you with DMs and phone calls and stuff.
my phone's going to start ringing off the hook after this.
I'm setting you up for this right now. But sincerely, I'm sure you'd be willing to help people if they had a question and stuff like that. But yeah, one thing I want to kind of wrap up here with is this, is I said this before, right? The secret sauce is doing the little things right. I don't know if you guys could tell, I'm a huge New York Giants fan, football fan. Right. And I always use this analogy. It's the teams that always win the Super Bowl every year. It's not the teams that are doing the crazy trick plays. Yeah. That's what gets highlighted when they review the game afterwards. But there's all the minutes in between that. Right. The reason that they win is because they do the little things right. They block and tackle extremely well. Right. And it's the same thing in your business. It's not about doing big, fancy, elaborate giveaways and stuff like that. What it's about is good customer service. When a phone comes in, you answer that phone call right away as quick as you can. If you miss it, you return it. You're energetic, you're positive, you're empathetic. You're somebody that people can see themselves working with, spending time with, and then you just go into the equation, go into the sales call, trying to help them, right? As much as you can, trying to actually solve their problems, give them a solution to what they're actually dealing with, instead of going, what's the best way that I can make a buck here, right? Don't try and impose your will. Try and find what they need help with and sell them a solution to that.
100%. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, dude. I think we covered a lot, and there's a lot of hidden gems in there. And I think that, if people can actually break down that information, they can get a lot out of this recording. I think ultimately just be genuine.
Yeah.
So.
Totally, man. All right, brother. Well, we'll do it again soon, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, Tommy.